There we go. Good morning, everyone. My name is David Boyer. I'm regional representative for Senator Rosen up here in Northern Nevada. And one of my main issue areas is working with military and veterans. And part of that today is providing some information to everyone that's participating regarding military academy nominations that are upcoming. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm also a veteran as well. I retired from the Marine Corps a few years ago, but I consider this as continuing my service a little bit. So I'm happy to answer anything you all might need between now and the time we do Academy nominations. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And also joining us is retired Brigadier General Rob Novotny, who has also been on our Academy nomination board for the last 2 years and continues to serve on the Academy nomination board. Interestingly enough, he's probably the only person on the board that served on it both as active duty and now retiree. Rob, if you just want to say good morning real quick.
I'll
later on.
Later on. Great. Hey, good morning, Brendan, and good morning, everybody. I'm so excited that you all attended to understand this unique and challenging process. As Brendan said, I'm a graduate of the United States Air Force Academy, class of 1992, go Air Force, beat Navy. Since we have a Marine Corps veteran on there, I have to go out and say that. I did retire. I was last commander at Nellis Air Force Base until this previous fall. And if you don't ask a question, if you leave the webinar without asking a question and getting it off your mind, listen, I got to tell you what, that would be an opportunity lost. So make sure you ask us all the questions you've got, and we're going to help you navigate this process. Thanks for letting me be a part of the team.
Awesome. Thanks, Robin. We'll come back to you in a bit and you can get more into your background and everything when you talk about the nomination interview panel and how that all goes. But yeah, as Rob mentioned, questions. We want your questions. And the good thing about doing this via WebEx is we're able to take your questions at any time. All we need to do is just basically, have you type in your question in the Q&A box. And we're basically going to take all your questions, put them on a Word document, and then at the end of the presentation from our guest speakers, we're going to go ahead and get into the question and answer. So if it's something that we can answer, we will. Or if it's one of the nomination interview board, Rob or Ken Nasir can answer, we'll let them answer. But either way, we want to get you an answer to your questions. As a matter of fact, I believe we have Ken joining us right now. Let me just find him on that way I can get him in here. And I believe Ken is joining us. And if you want to go ahead and say a couple of words.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for getting me in. Go Army. I'm Ken Nasir. I'm a professor at University of Nevada, Reno. I'm an Army veteran, U.S. Airborne paratrooper, and from the Gulf War days. So I've been out for 30 years, but served under many Academy graduates.
Awesome. Thanks, Ken. And we'll come back to you during the interview panel discussion and forum. Just hold tight for a little bit, but getting back to what we were talking about before, the questions, and I see we have questions coming in. So please put your questions, or you can also put it in the chat box. David's going to be monitoring both. We'll take down all the questions, and then at the end of the discussion on the interview panel, we'll have a question and answer period where we'll be able to get those questions in. So anytime you have questions, please type them in either the chat or the question and answer box. That way we can get those questions answered. So the reason we're here today is to talk about the 2021 Academy nomination process for Senator Jackie Rosen. I've had the honor of working for Senator Rosen since I retired from the Air Force in 2019. And this program is one of the programs that I took over right away. It's a very intensive program. It's a very thorough program. And we put a lot of time and effort into the program. The main reason being is because we are sending future military leaders to the service academies. 4 out of the 5 service academies require nomination. The Air Force, U.S. Military Academy, U.S. Naval Academy, and U.S. Merchant Marine Academy all require nominations. The U.S. Coast Guard Academy doesn't, It's just like applying to a normal college without the nomination. However, the fact that we're sending, Nevada high school graduates off to these military academies, putting our names behind the nomination, there's a lot that goes into it, and it's a very, very serious process because, basically as high school graduates applying to go to a military academy, you're making a decision to start a career in the military, and more importantly, lead America's sons and daughters. Because if you do get accepted to a military academy, you get the nomination, you get accepted, and you go through for all 4 years. When you graduate, you'll graduate as a second lieutenant, and you'll immediately be in a leadership position where you'll be responsible for the welfare of the troops under you. So in order to have that kind of responsibility and give that kind of responsibility, we take the nomination process very seriously. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and share a quick slide presentation that'll kind of explain our process. And again, remember, this is the process for our office. Each office, congressional office, has different regulations, how they handle their nominations. You need to check with each one. And I would tell you to apply for more than one nomination. Theoretically, if you do it properly, you could walk away with 4 different nominations. One being from the Vice President of the United States, one being from our office, one being from Senator Cortez Masto's office, and one being from the office of the member of the House of Representatives in which district you reside. For us, we're able to take applications from anybody in the state of Nevada, anybody that's a resident of the state of Nevada, because we know we have family members of military members who are serving overseas, and we handle their nominations as well. As far as getting a nomination from a member of the House of Representatives, you would get that nomination from whatever district you live in. So for example, if you live here in Las Vegas, and let's say you live in Henderson, you would look to get a nomination from Congresswoman Susie Lee's office. And again, if there's any questions on any of this, please type them in and we'll get them down. But let's go on to the slide presentation we have put together here for today. All right. So the 2021 Academy nomination process, I'm not going to read this word for word. And the good thing is when we're done here, I have everybody who registered email address. I'm going to send you a copy of this so you have it in writing so you can follow along for the year. But again, as we already discussed, the congressional nomination is required for all Academy admissions packages with the exception of the U.S. Coast Guard. Now, our office is this year, as we did last year, requiring everything just to be uploaded to our online portal. Our online portal is active right now, and we would tell you that if you're going to submit a application, don't wait till the last minute. Get working on it now. We know there are some things that you're going to want to do during the beginning of the school year in order to have on record. But please start building your application and getting everything required together now, because it'll help you out in the long run. And again, one of the biggest dates that you need to write down and be aware of is 29 October 2021. That's when the due date for everything is. If you turn it in on midnight, Saturday, the 30th of October, unfortunately, you'll be disqualified from getting a chance at getting an Academy nomination. We want everything to be turned in by Friday, 29 October 2021. And again, one thing that we find is most of the students that are applying for these nominations have no problem meeting the deadline. There are certain requirements that you can start working on now. There's basic information that you can go ahead and fill out. But other things like letters of recommendation, you might want to start thinking about who you're going to have write those. You're also going to want to make sure that you have all of your ducks lined up in a row to show how active you've been. Now, we do realize, and again, this began with last year's interview process, and I'm sure both Rob and Ken will discuss this. We are aware of what happened with COVID. We are aware of the fact that from March 2020 up until now, opportunities to do a lot of things have changed just because of COVID. But still, show us a track record. Show us what you've done before COVID. Show us what you're even doing throughout COVID. I mean, we are taking this into account. The interview date, which we're going to also talk about the interview process, but the interview date right now is looking at being on Saturday, 20 November 2021. We say tentative just because we don't want to basically have it in stone just yet, because things could change, but this is the date that we are looking at doing. And again, once you register in our system, once we have you in our system, we're really good about keeping you updated as far as, what's going on with the process, what you need to know for the process. Basically, everything you need to have a successful process will be emailed to you on a regular basis. And then after everything is said and done, we're able to finalize and notify our nominees, usually in the January timeframe. So January 2022, you'll be informed whether or not you received one of our nominations or if you did not receive one of our nominations. And again, as far as our office is concerned, the nominations that we have are specific to academies, and they're based on the 5 slots we have per academy. And again, if you get a nomination from our office, it does not guarantee admission to the academy. So kind of looking at a roundup. Last year was kind of strange for us because we didn't have any Air Force Academy nominations available. However, this year we do, so we're going to go back to having 40 total nominations available for Nevada students. 10 nominations we're able to give to each of the different academies that we nominate to. And as you can see, last year we nominated 10 to Naval, 10 to Marine, 10 to the Military Academy at West Point, and 10 to the Merchant Marine Academy. We had close to 100 applications come in last year for Senator Rosen's nomination. You can see the grade point averages, and again, standardized tests were not counted due to the COVID and academy admissions requirements. This year, we are probably not going to require standardized tests in line with the academy admissions requirements. We basically go off of what they're saying. If the academy, if one academy doesn't require standardized testing, then we won't require standardized testing, just to mirror their requirements and make it fair for everyone. The kids or the students that we nominated had multiple extracurricular activities. And again, we already talked about the impact of COVID on that. Again, just show us your track record, show us what you have pre-COVID, show us what you've been able to do during COVID, and you'll be in good standing. One thing that a good takeaway is not all of our nominees are JROTC cadets. We do have a lot of JROTC cadets that apply for nomination, and we have a lot of non-JROTC cadets apply for nomination. There's no advantage either way. Basically your full, your track record, your overall package, your full person concept is going to show us who you are, and you'll have a chance to expand on all of that during the interview process, which really can make or break an application. And again, as we've said before, a strong track record is key. That's what we want to see. And like I said, because, we really do want to emphasize the fact that, look, we are aware of what happened with COVID. So as far as the process is concerned, I think quite a few of you have already gone on and checked out our nomination portal. If you haven't, the website is there, rosen.senate.gov, and then you can click right on Academy nominations. Basically, the paperwork requirements that are due to us by the 29th of October, uploaded only. You don't have to bring in paper copies. You don't have to mail in paper copies. All you have to do is upload the following: your resume, letter of interest to attend a military academy, official high school transcript. As far as official transcript or results from standardized testing, again, we're not requiring those, and I don't see that changing. 2 recommendation letters. Again, when it comes to recommendation letters, the best recommendation letter you can get is from somebody that actually knows you. It's kind of interesting in the fact that we know that students, will make a request to get a recommendation letter from, a member of Congress or something like that, when the member of Congress may not actually know the student. The best recommendation letters you can get are from teachers, from coaches, from people that have had direct contact and have, taught you or worked with you or know you personally and can speak to your character, can speak to your ability, and can personally speak to the reason why they think you should be in one of the service academies. As we're going through this, if you have any questions, again, type those questions into the question and answer box or into the chat box. David will be collecting all the questions and going over them. Again, just a few takeaways. You know, we're in early August. The deadline is the end of October. So you got plenty of time to get this done. Meet the deadlines as required, but don't wait till the last minute. And we have had people who wait to the very last minute, and because they could not get their paperwork in, they were disqualified from even being considered for a nomination. You know, you guys will have my email address, my work email address, and I think a few of you do already. You can get in touch with me at any time. I like answering your questions. I like making sure that you have what you need. I mean, at the end of the day, I do want you to succeed, and I do want you to be competitive for a nomination. Remember, the interview is the most important part of the process. Be prepared, but not over-prepared. And Rob and Ken are probably going to talk about this here in a couple of minutes. And, you know, and as I've mentioned throughout, we are aware of the interruptions that have happened in the last couple of years. So, you know, don't let that worry about you. Don't let that worry you, because, you know, we are aware and we take that into consideration. Again, don't forget to apply for nominations from, you know, the three other sources that you have. The good thing about this is they require the same kind of paperwork, if not the exact same paperwork. So if you've already got it, you might as well go ahead and put it in. The only thing you would have to do differently is probably sit in 3 different interviews. I'm not sure how the vice president's nomination works, but I know for at least Senator Cortez Masto and whichever member of the House of Representatives you're going to apply to, they also have interview boards here in Nevada. And the good thing is we've actually worked all the offices together to deconflict our interviews. The House of Representative members generally have their interview boards the weekend before the Senate has theirs, in order to give students time to do both without having to rush. One of the biggest things that I can tell you too is that when it comes time to rank your nomination preferences, make sure we know. And we get it. Some people only want to go to the Air Force Academy because they know it's the best institution out there. But there are also other students that are like, look, I want to serve. I want to be a military officer. If I can't get a nomination to Air Force, I'll take a nomination to Navy, or I'll take a nomination to Army. I mean, the most important thing is rank your nomination choices so you don't go away empty-handed. Because we do have people who, you know, like it's Air Force or bust. And we unfortunately, you know, have more qualified applicants than we have nominations. And if we can't give them a nomination, you know, they will basically say thanks, but I'm good. However, we do have students that are like, I would want to go to, if I get a nomination, I'd like a nomination to Air Force first, Navy second, Merchant Marine third, West Point last. And basically, if they score strong enough and we can't give them a nomination to their first choice, we can usually slot them into their second choice. So again, make sure you rank your nomination preferences. That way you don't leave empty-handed. And when it comes time for that, I will talk with you about it individually, one-on-one. I will confirm your nomination preferences. That way we make sure that when it comes time to score the interviews and rank our nomination candidates, we give the most qualified students a nomination, even if it isn't to their first choice. And again, the most important thing, look, relax. We know there's a lot to get worked up about. We know there's a lot of stuff going on, but relax. You have time. We want to make sure you succeed and do your best during this process. So, you know, do it, you know, basically you've got the time, so take your time doing it to make sure you're doing it properly. Email me, ask me any questions you have, and that way we can make sure it is a success for you. And as I mentioned earlier, this briefing will basically be emailed to you as soon as we're done with this WebEx. That way you've got it in writing and you can use it as a reference. And as you see, any questions, go ahead and type them in the Q&A box or into the chat box, and we'll get those answered a little later on. Again, due date for everything, Friday, 29 October 2021. That is a hard date, so please make sure of that now. You see our 3 email addresses that are there, and again, you'll have those in the handout when we give them to you. Don't be afraid to get in touch with all of us. You know, we want to make sure you succeed. I mean, your success is key, because, you know, you're not just representing yourself, but when you go to a military academy, you're representing the state of Nevada, and we want to send the best that Nevada has to offer especially when you want to start a military career and lead the sons and daughters of America. All right, with that being said, we will now transition into the interview process, and we'll let Ken and Rob go ahead and jump back on and kind of reintroduce themselves and talk about, you know, their takeaways from the interviews that they've done, Ken being in the north and Rob Novotny being down here in the south, and basically kind of like, you know, tell you what they're looking for and tell you what they've seen. Gentlemen, go right ahead.
Ken, you want to go? You want to go first from the north?
No, you go ahead, General.
Hey, okay, well, thanks. So again, it's really great to see everybody here, although I really only see like 3 people on the WebEx. But and thanks for your interest in applying for the Air Force Academy or the service academies in general. I say Air Force because that's just where I come from. Listen, let me tell you right away. The first question I ask everybody when they walk in, and we'll get to, I think, keys to success in the interview process writ large is, what do you want to do in the military? So there's a lot of people that understand that there's a, you know, potentially a full ride scholarship to the service academies, but they're not thinking the next 4 years after that, which is, hey, you're going to owe a substantial commitment to the United States government in uniform, serving your country, potentially going into harm's way. And when you come in and you say, I really don't know, I just want to go to school for free, that's not a great answer. So we need you to be thinking long-term, why a service academy? Why join the military? Why serve your country? I've had people that came in the interview and said, well, I want to be a pediatrician. And we basically said, you need to probably go someplace else. We really don't need pediatricians in the military. We need leaders. We need people who are going to go out and do the mission. We need people who are going to go out and do really crazy things. Brendan and I have spent a lot of time in the Middle East doing the mission. And so if you're not thinking like that beyond, and I know it's difficult because you guys are in high school and you're 17 or 18 and you're not, you know, maybe thinking that far, but if you feel called to serve your country, you should have that answer prepared. And it's not, hey, I just want to go to the service academy. It's I want to do something in the military. So I want you all to marinate on that question for a little bit because you really need to have that in mind. Okay. So let's go back to keys to success, in my opinion. This may sound really, really simple to a lot of people, but I don't want you to underestimate how many folks we see that really don't hit it out of the park. And and just like Brendan said, we want you to come in and crush it. So the first thing I do is I would dress up. Okay, so we've all been in COVID. We're all wearing shorts. We haven't been going out too much. So here's an opportunity for you to dress up. So I would dress up and talk to your folks or talk to your mentors or your older brothers and sisters or your moms or some family friend and dress up and look at least as good as Brendan does and David does. If you're a guy, you've got a suit on, you look sharp. I'd probably recommend a tie because you're doing an interview. You never want to leave something, you know, off on the table. So look sharp. If you're the ladies, you're looking sharp. You're in a dress. You're in a business suit. Some of y'all come in ROTC uniforms. I think that's fine. That looks great. And we actually interview many people who are currently serving enlisted, and they come in uniform, and I think that's a touchdown. I'll tell you that being an ROTC uniform and being in a suit does not necessarily give you an advantage per se, but I just want you to look your best. Okay, so you look sharp. You know you got it all squared away, and you're coming in. Take a look at your socks. Make sure your socks match. Okay. Come into the room, smile, look people in the face, a good handshake. I hope that, you know, I'm not certain exactly how Ken and the team did it up north. I'm pretty confident they all did it the same way, which is we're excited to see you. So we'll probably meet you with a handshake. We'll probably say, hey, how you doing? And like Brendan said, I fully expect to be a little bit nervous, and that's okay. That's okay. I was nervous when I did my first interview in high school. I was nervous. My second interview, not so nervous because I'd had a chance to do it twice. We can talk about that later. I wound up going to the prep school for a bit. And then, you know, sit up straight and be ready to go. Rehearse in your mind some thoughts, and we'll give you some ideas here about questions. The first one, more than likely, is why do you want to go to the service academy? Okay, and if you go, well, I really want a free college education, that's probably not, that's, you know, That's not a great answer, okay? Because we're going to shave your head more than likely. We're going to make you do 10,000 push-ups. We're going to move you away from your family. You're not going to see your friends. You are not going to have a normal college experience. And, and so I need you to have a slightly better, answer to that. And I'm sure all of us at the panel have seen people who hadn't thought that one out. So understand why you're choosing the service academy, why you're choosing serving your country in uniform. When it comes to that, there's other questions we're expecting that you've done your homework. We're expecting that you've researched the service academies. We're expecting that you understand the process. We're expecting you understand what does the first summer look like? What does the academic curriculum look like? What are as Brendan said, there were 100 applications, and 30 people got nominations. And I would stipulate that of those 30 nominations, and Brendan may have the numbers, we probably maybe got 4 people, maybe 5 people got selected. So we're talking about around a 5 to 7% chance of all the applicants are going to go to school. So you probably need to understand the intensity of competition to get into the school. And then once you get there, these are unbelievably difficult universities. These are not run-of-the-mill colleges. You are not going to be studying a lot of liberal arts. You're going to be studying heavy-duty engineering, math, chemistry, science. These are very STEM-oriented organizations and universities. You don't graduate with a Bachelor of Arts. You graduate with a Bachelor of Science from all the schools. So you need to understand what that academic load looks like. And now you have a year going in. You have a few months, obviously, before the interview process, but you have a year to kind of both get academically and mentally and spiritually and physically ready to go. You need to understand the physical requirements. Okay. So if you are not a fan of physical activity, you need to choose an alternate route to go someplace else. The physical demands at the service academies are intense. I don't need you to be a Division I football player or a Division I swimmer, but I need you to understand that you're going to be doing lots of push-ups and pull-ups and sit-ups and running for 4 straight years to prepare you for a life of potentially serving your country in uniform and deploying downrange and doing difficult things. So make sure you are familiar with as much you can find out about service academy life, service academy academic intensity, military requirements, service academy, so that when we have a conversation with you and we ask you certain questions about it, you're well informed and you're ready to really hit that out of the park. The last thing I'll tell you about maybe interview prep and things that you can do now is talk to veterans. Understand what is it like to serve in uniform. You've got 4 veterans here online. All 4 had really distinct and unique different careers. And so talking to every veteran that you can find and go, hey, what's it like serving in the military? What's it like if you deployed? What's it like? What kind of jobs were out there? What kind of things did you like? What kind of things did you not like? Because again, getting you the interview to get to the service academy is but one step on your journey to serve in your country. So my biggest thing to tell you would be come in prepared and dominate the room right when you walk in. So you look sharp, you're excited, you're fired up. We expect you to be nervous. You've done your homework. We're expecting to have a conversation with you about not only the application process, but life at the academy, the academic rigors. But then I really want to know why the academy over UNLV ROTC. Why the academy over UNR ROTC? I mean, those routes are significantly different than going to West Point. I don't want to make a statement about one being easier or harder than the other, but I can tell you that a student that goes to UNR and does ROTC is having a significantly different experience than a student who goes to West Point for 4 years, right? And you should know why one over the other. So anyway, that's what I'll say to you. I would say, it's going to be a conversation. We want you to be engaged because, and we'll have more talks about this later on. If you're the first chair, French horn player at Palo Verde, that to me is cool. You've worked hard. You've dedicated a lot of time. But my question to you would be is now what does your leadership portfolio look like? What are you doing leadership wise? So if you have a 6.12 GPA, but you have never left the house, you're probably not right for the military. Conversely, if you have been the leader in everything, but your academics are really poor, you're probably not right for the service academy. So we need to see that balance. We need to see leadership and understanding what you're getting into it. So I look forward to all your questions, and I'll turn it over to Ken. Thanks.
Thanks. Everything he said was fantastic. I only participated last year for my first time in a virtual interview process, so I can't speak to the in-person thing, but even the applicants online were wearing a suit with a tie, and they were sharp dressed. And I'm going to tell you what, every person we brought in had a fantastic GPA, had a fantastic resume, right? So you need to stand out. You need to be the one person that everyone in the room goes, man, I'm really interested in talking to this next person on the interview. And the way to do that, I think, in your packet is going to be through the letters that you get, who you choose to represent you academically. Some of those were great letters from a professor, from a extracurricular coach, from a band leader, from somebody that you volunteered with at the homeless shelter. I saw one of those last year, and those are impressive letters that do have an impact on the committee. But I think more important is probably your personal letter. You really, really need to reach out to us and tell us why you want to be there. Tell us what your history is, your background, and kind of what you've gone through to be the person who you are, because we're really, really interested in that. As far as walking into the room or getting on a Zoom, be on time. We had some delays last year that were kind of, in one case, very catastrophic. So don't be that person. You don't want to lose that opportunity over something simple like the time zone change in the calendar or something like that. And then have a statement prepared. We're going to first thing we're going to ask you when you walk in the room is tell us about yourself, right? We've read your letter. We've done our homework. We've read every class. We know that you got a C in chemistry. We're going to ask you about that. Be ready. If you have anything shortcoming wise, be ready to address it, and don't be embarrassed about it. It's fine, right? I got an F in a class once, right? I'm a university professor now. You're going to be fine, so don't worry about it. But be ready to talk about it. Tell us what happened. Hey, I was having a rough year. Football was overwhelming. I learned from that, right? What are the consequences of taking on too much? And that was a really hard-earned experience. Be able to talk about it. It's fine that you've had that experience. Be able to tell us about it and what you got from it. Why do you want to be there? Super, super important. And I'll stress it again. General Navani really discussed it. The fact that your brother or your father or your grandfather went to the Air Force Academy is not good enough, right? We want to know why you want to be there. What about it is calling you to stand up and serve and to go through a really different experience, as he mentioned, between ROTC and an academy. And we've seen people who didn't get their nomination, went into a prep academy for another year to start suffering early because they wanted it that bad. And so, there are people who want it, and it makes a difference. And it makes a difference when we are evaluating, who are the people that really, really want this, right? It's great that you've got a 4.9 or a 6.8 GPA in leadership skills, but if you don't want it over just going to another college, we're inclined to maybe find our nomination towards somebody that's really, really wants to be there, because it's a hard road. And it matters. I mean, I was a trooper on the other side of this thing, and we've had, what we call second lieutenants coming fresh out of West Point, and a lot of those guys were sharp, real sharp. And so, you're going to be kind of the leading force in sometimes combat deployments, right? And so we need strong leadership, and we need people that are fit, good thinkers, smart, on their feet. So that's what we're looking for as we go through the interview process. Last thing I would say is, know your background, right? We're going to ask you about your transcripts. We're going to ask you what you think about diversity. I guarantee it's going to come up in this day and age, right? We're going to ask you, what do you think about diversity? How are you going to handle a hard situation? We're going to ask you to role play something, right? Probably. What would you do in this situation where you're faced with this decision? And that's going to be an important thing that we'll talk about during that interview process. both with you and separately to decide who goes forward. So be ready to tell us how you're going to handle situations that may be uncomfortable, right? Because you're going to have to face those probably the day you walk into the job. Other than that, you guys were all fantastic last year. And I was really, really impressed with the caliber of the applicants. And so I know you guys are going to be that caliber. And relax. Tell us about yourself. We're excited to meet you. Don't stiffen up in the interview. It's not basic training. It's just an interview, and we really, really want to talk with you. So short answers like yes sir, no sir. They're not getting you anywhere. Be expressive. Talk to us. Because that really, really is what we want. And that's all I had as far as straight up thoughts. But happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Ken. And we'll get to those questions in a minute. And actually, you did bring something up that I want to go back and have Rob kind of expand on. You mentioned going to the preparatory school as an additional route. And if Rob, if you could expand on the preparatory school real quick.
Yeah, thanks, Brendan. So the prep schools at the actual service academies are really kind of geared towards what I would say are two types of inbound potential cadets. The first are prior enlisted for the most part. So they came out of high school, they've been out of the academic regime for a couple years as they've been serving. And the prep school is designed to kind of help them change gears and get back into the high caliber academic mindset. So they get back into the heavy duty maths and sciences, so that when they become a freshman at the academy, they're not out of the loop, right? In the sense that coming out of high school, your brain is mentally lubricated for standardized testing and calculus and all those things, and so you jump right into your freshman year. It's kind of like, it's just the next year of school. But if you've been doing 3 years of serving your country as a private or an airman, you've been too busy working, and you probably haven't hit the books in a couple of years. So it's designed to get them going. The second one are for athletes. So athletes who have some kind of athletic contribution they think they can make to the Service Academy's athletic program. All the the 3 service academies, the big ones, Air Force, Army, and Navy, are Division I schools. With Division I football teams and track and gymnastics and swimming. So you may be a great opportunity to be in addition to the Division I baseball team or the Division I volleyball team. But maybe in order to be that good athletically, your academics were not in your first priority because you wanted to try to go to school for an athletic scholarship. So the prep schools will be good for you to come in. Not only, it's kind of because you don't do a red shirt year at the service academies, it's kind of your red shirt year to get your academics up to speed, because you could get left behind very quickly. And then at the same time, get conditioned and ready to join a Division I football team. What I did was a slightly different preparatory experience. So for the Air Force Academy, they had a thing called the Falcon Foundation Scholarship Program, which was really for folks that were pilot qualified and they wanted to recruit more pilots. And then my test scores were great and all my all-around stuff was good, but my academics were maybe a place where they were a little interested in seeing if I could do collegiate level stuff. So I wound up getting a full ride freshman year scholarship to a preparatory school outside of Philadelphia, proved to them that I could do collegiate level work, and then I got accepted into the academy. So I did the 5-year plan for prep school. And those scholarships exist. They used to go to New Mexico Military Institute, Marion Military, Valley Forge, and other schools out there. So I think all of the service academies have something like that. I'm just not familiar only with the Air Force one. So that's my experience. To Ken's point, one thing that helped me out is going into my second interview, because I did my first interview and I didn't get, I got an alternate nomination, and then I went to the prep school. Let me tell you about confidence and perseverance. When I showed up, they were like, why do you want to, what are you willing to do to go to the Air Force Academy? I'm like, you're looking, I'm in my full high neck wool collar uniform, starting my punishment a year early, and I was #1 in my class at my prep school. And I'm like, I am going to continue to do this until you let me go to the Air Force Academy so I can go be a pilot. And they were like, okay, you can go. So perseverance and resiliency is going to be critical, not only through this process, but also being a leader. We clearly don't want officers in any service that will fold under pressure. So, we're looking for you to stand out and shine.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Real quick before we get into the question and answers, something that has come up is, are the interviews going to be in person or are they going to be via Zoom? Again, as I'm sure many people are aware, things are changing, not just in Clark County, but all of Nevada on a regular daily basis. So we will make the decision how we're going to do the interview process. Last year we did it via Zoom, and it was a learning experience for all of us, but I think it went off without a hitch. We were able to basically conduct the interviews and people were able to represent themselves quite effectively. So if we have to do Zoom again, just so for those of you that are going through it for the first time this year, don't worry about it. I mean, you will have the opportunity to make an impression via Zoom. If we are able to do it in person, we'll look to do it in person. But again, you'll get emails from me on the regular basis updating you as to what's going on. All right, so with the time that we have left, I'm going to turn it over to David because he has the questions that we want to get you answers to. David, go right ahead.
Awesome. And then just before I start on that, I wanted to add a couple of things. Brennan had already emphasized, like, you guys are already in the portal. You can start working on stuff now. And I know some of you are like thinking, I'm going to get this done. I'm going to have an early jump on it. But one of the things that we did notice last year is we start getting within that 2-week window and a bunch of people have started their application process and now they're rushing. And we see it come down. We can see as things are turned into the online portal, and then we see this big, huge rush that starts to occur that last week and counts down to the very last day. And then we get a rush of people. Where's my letter? I requested this letter of recommendation from this professor on a Thursday and it's due on a Friday. So just be cognizant that when you're asking for these letters, you're probably not the only people that's asking them for letters, and give them a good couple weeks turnaround to be able to push these letters out and get you a well-written letter. It behooves you to do that, because if you hit them last minute, what's the quality of the letter that you could have gotten versus the one that you ended up with, because you didn't plan accordingly. I saw a couple questions about when you should get started on your application. So sooner is better, and then that gives you more time to get those letters of recommendation, just to make sure that you have all of your I's dotted and T's crossed. Yeah, don't wait to the last minute. I'm just telling you, technical difficulties, other things come up. And then on that, Ken had briefly mentioned knowing what time your interview time is and making sure that you're available. I would say probably one of the people that we had up in the northern office, probably one of our strongest candidates. He decided he was going to go on. They decided they're going to go on a vacation to another country. Ended up in another country doing some fun stuff, and had one interview at 1 a.m. his time, and then ours was the follow-on interview at 3 a.m. His time. And what ended up happening is he ended up missing his interview. And even once we made a spot for him to get back in with us later on, that was so much of a challenge, and that person was so uncomfortable and felt so bad that it just overrode his whole interview. And what was probably one that the board members were really looking forward to interviewing ended up being one that was ranked one of the last ones in our office. So come prepared, and don't do anything that's going to add stress to you as this process goes on. We're going to get into some of these questions. How often may you visit your family while in a service academy? That's something that would be much better addressed with like the meeting we had last time, where we had service academy representatives on there. Depending on the year that you're in, the academy that you're in, and then just during the time of year is going to often vary how much you can see your family. So it'd be really hard to pinpoint down and give you an exact time.
Hey, Dave, I'll comment. It's usually the standard 3 holidays. So it's Thanksgiving, Christmas, and spring break. There is a parents' weekend for freshmen early on, like right after basic training finishes. But to your point, the freshman year is the hardest one. And you as a cadet control your ability to leave the academy through your academics and through your staying out of trouble. So if you stay out of trouble and you have good grades, then you have weekend passes for the most part every weekend, and even upper class cadets can leave the campus during the week. Guy like me who did not stay out of trouble and did not have great academics, I spent a lot of time with my cadets at the academy. Just so you know, I turned out okay.
Brennan, did you weight those GPAs in our office when we calculated the total, or are those unweighted?
So I normally go with unweighted GPA. And again, we do look at both, but I tend to go with unweighted GPAs. So there you go.
All right. Does the type of teacher matter? Math, English, etc., or can it be any type of teacher for letters of recommendation?
So when it comes to the letters of recommendation, again, you have to provide 2 letters of recommendation. Who those 2 letters of recommendation come from are up to you. I suggest using teachers because teachers have direct, knowledge of your performance, direct knowledge of your abilities, and can accurately talk about you because they've been around you for a long amount of time. But again, it's up to you who you get the letters of recommendation from. You just need to have 2 of them, and they have to be uploaded to the portal.
And then,
If I
go
could
ahead,
add to
Ken.
that, when you're thinking about who to pick somebody that you've really interacted with a lot. We saw a couple letters was like, I had this person in one class, they got good grades. If you haven't interacted with that person, they're not going to have that connection that's really going to make a good letter come from that. So really try to be selective about who you pick because it really does show in what we see when it comes across.
My parents are in the military. We're currently stationed at Nellis. On the website, it said we'd have to be a permanent resident of Nevada. We're originally from Florida before my mother joined the military. Can I still apply through Nevada, or do they need to go through Florida?
If the parents are residents of Florida, have Florida driver's license, vote in Florida, then they'll need to go through the Florida offices in order to get that nomination. It's basically the same thing we do for Nevada students, who are outside of Nevada because their parents are in the military. So if you have the opposite situation, kid who's in Florida, but his parents are originally from Nevada residents, they would apply through our office for the nomination, just like you'll apply through Florida offices for a nomination.
Thank you. Should we make a presentation listing our track record, or just provide papers showing our track? There's required documents, but for the actual interview itself, you're definitely not going to be the one per se giving the presentation. You're going to come in, you're going to get questions from the interviewers. Our interviews in the North lasted approximately 30 minutes. Someone asked about how long those lasted. Lasted about 30 minutes. I believe that's about the standard time in most of the offices across the state for how long those are going to last. But definitely before you show up for the interview, I would have a presentation ready in my head, and I would role play some of those questions, some of the questions you heard about today. Why do I want to be in a service academy? Have an answer ready for that. I've literally seen some people that when they get asked that question, they hit the ground running, and I've seen other people, that's when the trepidation and the fear and the anxiety starts right away. If you can kick off an interview and get it started on the right foot, I tend to believe you have the propensity to finish a little bit stronger if you get that confidence going early. So come prepared. Know your resume. Know what's on your resume, what you write on it. Know what you put in your statement of interest letters. I've seen board members specifically ask, I understand you know how to do some coding, and the applicant was coding what's going. Well, yeah, it said you went to this advanced code camp all summer long right here on your resume. Can you tell me? And it totally caught someone off their mark, and they didn't know where to go from there. So it's good to know a little bit about yourself. I say that, and that might seem weird coming off, but be well rehearsed for when you get these questions. So you should have something that you've laid down and come prepared with. But you're going to have to inculcate that in with the process. You're definitely not going to be controlling it and giving a presentation, if that makes sense.
And one thing I'd like to also bring up and point out is, both Ken and Rob are just two of our interview panel. I think all in all, we probably have about 16 to 20 members total, both South and North. And, the members that are selected for the board are selected for the board for a reason. We have commanders, Air Force, we have Air Force wing and unit commanders that are sitting on our board. We have command chief master sergeants that sit on our board. We have veterans who have an impressive resume both inside and outside of the military that sit on our board. All the people that sit on our board, kind of like Rob had mentioned and kind of like Ken had mentioned, they're going to ask you some hard questions because they've been there and they know exactly what they are looking for when it comes to who they want to have as our future leadership in the United States military. Because again, you're not just applying to go to a military academy, you're applying to lead America's sons and daughters when you graduate. And everyone across our board is very serious about who they're going to, put their name to get a nomination. So, again, remember, when you walk into your interview, or you sit down in front of the board on Zoom for your interview, you're going to meet some very impressive individuals. Don't let it intimidate you, but please understand that, we only want the highest caliber individuals making a decision who gets our nomination.
Do you only give a nomination to one school per candidate?
Yes. Again, as the statistics showed themselves, last year we had 100 applicants and we had 30 nominations. This year we'll have 40 nominations, but generally we are able to, get 40 separate nominations to the different academies every year. So yes, it's one school per candidate.
In the case of dressing properly as a lady, would it appear more professional to dress in a dress uniform, business attire, or business attire such as a dress or a suit? One of the board members.
I don't know if I necessarily. I want you to look sharp and be comfortable, and put your best foot forward. So I don't. Yeah, none of us are fashionistas, that's for sure. We're not going to spend time grading your outfits. That's for sure. What I think would probably be, if you came in shorts and Crocs, that's probably not the best way to immediately make your first impression. Or jeans that are all torn up and you just got done working on the car, changing the oil. So just look, just look sharp. It's one of those ones. If you go to church, it would be like how you dress up. Like if you were going to go to church on Easter, or if you were going to go to a retirement, you just want to look sharp. And what you really want to do is you want to make a good first impression. So that's all we're saying, right? I did see some really cool socks. So, so cool socks are, I don't know how that's going to go with all the other panel members, but I did see some cool socks and I thought that was cool. But that's, I'll leave that to Ken and everybody else.
If your socks say "Go Army," then that's a good sign. I would say whatever you wear, make sure you feel confident in that and comfortable, right? Look sharp, but feel confident so that's one thing off your plate. You don't have to worry about how you look, right? And then you've got the rest.
Yeah, it's a job interview. It's a job interview, right?
Very big one. Are there going to be multiple interviews, or will it be the one on the 20th? So for our office, we'll run all of our interviews likely on the same day. Last year, we were able to also work with Senator Cortez Masso's office, so she did the interviews in the morning of the same day, and then we did them in the afternoon, and then depending on who your representative in the House was, they did the interview the weekend prior or the weekend after. And that's just to allow to make sure that you're not feeling overly stressed hitting all kinds of interviews in one day and having to travel from this office to that office. So we're generally able to get ours done all on the same day, and you'll find that that usually occurs within the other Senate office on the
And
same day as.
we also need to have an honest conversation about it too, because last year I got emails, basically people are like, well, I'm going on vacation, so that date doesn't work for me. Again, I kind of mentioned the background of our interview board. We convene our interview board once, because you're talking about individuals who have many things to include, commanding squadrons going on. So to get them all together at the same time, but at the same time, you as an individual have to decide, is this something you want? Because if your answer is, well, I can't really do that date because I'm going on vacation, you might want to question whether or not the military is the right fit for you. All four of us panelists, having been in the military, can attest to how many birthdays, anniversaries, significant events that we've had to miss because we were on duty, deployed, or somewhere wearing the uniform. It's part of the profession of arms. The military is not a job. It is a life. It is a lifestyle. It is something that if you embrace it, you can make a great career, build a lot of good friendships. You know, Rob and I actually used to work together. He was my wing commander at Nellis, and you know, it's cool that, I mean, we still are in contact and talk to each other all the time. Now that we're both retired from the military, you know, a lot of good memories and everything. And same thing that David and Ken can tell you, that they probably have a lot of good friends of theirs from their time in the military. And, you know, when you leave the military, whether you serve for 4 years or 24 years, you'll walk away with a lot of good memories, hopefully, and a lot of good friendships that will last you for life. So remember, we do these interviews on November 20th. We expect you to be at these interviews on November 20th. And if, well, I'm on vacation is your answer, seriously take a serious think about whether or not the military is going to be a right fit for you.
Brendan, a little bit of clarity on the testing for the SAT or ACT. Is it optional or test blind? I was confused by the wording is not counting test scores.
I mean, we're not counting scores at all. So like basically when we receive all the packages, I mean, we have factors that we weigh into, okay, you know, who is eligible for our nomination. Before we would weigh test scores in addition to GPA, in addition to the score that you get from the panel, in order to figure out who ranks where. Because the Naval Academy is not requiring standardized test scores, we're not requiring standardized test scores. Feel more than free to submit your test scores as part of your overall package to show your academic ability, but just know that that's not going to count for or against you in the process.
For the recommendations, may I ask retired military officers as one of the recommendations?
Yes. Again, you can get you can have your 2 letters of recommendation from anyone you choose, but again, make sure those people know you. That's all I'm say.
Does a high GPA usually compensate for a test score that is not as strong, and vice versa?
I would say overall, again, we're looking at the whole person package. GPA, test scores, those are all individual parts. And while they add up to the sum total, they're not everything. Again, one of the things, and Rob brought it up, you're going to a U.S. military academy, which is basically like a science school. Think of it as like MIT, but with machine guns. And you're going to have a strong requirement for maths and sciences there. So we want to see a strong GPA because of the kind of courses you'll be required to take while you're at the academy. But again, we're not going to say, oh my goodness, they've got the strong GPA, get them in. No, we're going to look at the GPA. We're going to look at your statement of intent. We're going to look at your letters of recommendation. We're going to look at everything that you give us, and along with the interview, that's what's going to be the deciding factor whether or not you get our nomination.
Do we got any other questions that are not in the chat? Go ahead. Let's get
I
those in the
see
chat.
one that says, what are some ways to get in contact with veterans to talk to them and learn? And that's a really, really good question. I would tell you to look for VFW or American Legion or Disabled American Veterans posts in your community and reach out to them. That's a very easy way of learning. There are multiple events on Veterans Day and Memorial Day that you can go to and just start talking to people. You'll see they may be wearing their uniform or some type of shirt that indicates that they served in the military. Ask around your family. I mean, you'd be surprised who might be veterans in your family and you don't know about it. The best thing to do is just be active and go out there and look. Some of your teachers are probably veterans. I mean, you know, that's the beautiful thing about the veteran community. We are diverse. We are, you know, in all different sectors. You have, you know, 4 individuals sitting here right now, 2 which work for a senator. One runs a consulting company, and the other is a college professor. I mean, that shows you the kind of diversity that's out there of what people do when they leave the military. So you're going to find people a lot easier than you would figure. And they're, you know, one thing I will tell you is we're more than willing to talk. We're more than willing to answer your questions, and we're more than willing to help you figure out if the military is the right fit for you. Because, you know, one thing about the military is change is constant. You know, we leave the military. I mean, people leave the military every single day. So we want to make sure that those that are coming behind us are well equipped and ready to serve and understand the commitment that goes into serving in the military. Because I mentioned before, you can seriously have a great career and get a lot of benefits and a lot of positive takeaways from your time in the military.
Not seeing any other questions, so go ahead and wrap that up. Just to emphasize what Brendan said earlier when it comes to ranking the academies, please make sure to do that. Unless you're 100% sure, I only want to go to the Air Force Academy, or I'm going to go down this other route and not do any of the academies whatsoever if I don't get the one I want. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not going to affect our decision if you say, I want to go to these 4 different academies here. We're not going to see like, oh, well, this person has this for number 2 and 3, so we'll just slide them into this. If you were deserving of that first pick with how you fell out with the ranking amongst your peers, so it doesn't doesn't make you more competitive for that one to just put that one down. What it does is it probably removes some opportunity that might have been offered to you later on in the process. One of the things that Brendan and I try to do once it's all done is we try to maximize the amount we have to get as many nominations to individuals as possible. And I think one of the things we did last year is we're reaching out like, hey, we don't have the Naval Academy for you, but what we do have is West Point. Is that something you're interested in? Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, I want that. I just didn't want Coast Guard maybe. I just throw that one out there. For all intents and purposes, put down a couple academies and just try to get a nomination. And that's all I have. I'll kick it back over to Brendan.
Awesome. And before we close out here, I'll give Rob and Ken just a chance to have a couple of closing comments. Ken, if you want to start.
Most important thing for everybody on this call, apply. Nobody gets in that doesn't send us a packet. And I see at least one name I saw last year. So please keep trying, keep at it. We really, really want to meet you. And so, you know, take that first step. Grades wise, I mean, if you bomb, like I said, if you bombed a class or 2, you blew that test, apply. You know, give yourself a chance. Don't self-select whether or not you are going to be competitive based on, whether or not you passed the ACT or whatever it is you did. But, be ready to talk about it. Like I said, an F or a C or a D, we're going to ask you. I guarantee it's going to come up, but tell us what happened. Tell us about yourself. You're human. We're human, right? So be ready to just tell us about yourself. Really, really get excited reading your packets. And it's hard. It takes us days to read those because I don't know what we had 20, 30 applicants last year we interviewed. I can't remember. Maybe 22 was the exact number. And we comb over those and I read them again and I make notes and I have questions that I write down and I'm really excited to meet each and every one of you guys and learn about you and learn about what you have to offer us. So, try to express yourself and let us know who you are and let us know why you're the person that we shouldn't pass up on this opportunity because we want to know.
And thanks, Ken, and thanks, David and Brendan, and thanks to Senator Rosen's team for putting this all together. I'll just close by saying this is an unbelievably difficult process and it's very competitive. And I know that all of you know that. So I would make sure that you just don't put all your eggs in one basket. I think the numbers hold true. It's tough. If you do everything that I think everybody here mentioned, you're going to really have a great interview. I think you're going to hit it out of the park and you're going to really set yourself apart from some of your peers. But I would just make sure you have other options too. And we'll ask you that. Hey, what if you don't get into Air Force? What if you don't get into Navy? The fact that you've applied to ROTC scholarships, the fact that you've applied to other schools that have great reputations to do the things you want to do, proves to us that you're thinking ahead. Proves to us that you're considering other options. And that, to Ken's point, is that you're driven. That you want to do this and that, if I want to serve my country, I want to serve in this capacity. And if you don't, find a way to get me an opportunity to go to the service academy, that's okay because I'm going to ROTC. That to me shows a level of commitment and dedication that a lot of people who say, hey, I'm just applying to Air Force Academy because I like to snow ski. So have some, think it through. You're going down an incredibly challenging and competitive path. So don't put all your eggs in one basket. And that also, to me, shows a level of maturity and dedication that goes beyond that. So last but not least is good luck. We're so excited and proud that you're thinking about choosing this as a commitment in your life. We hope this has been helpful. And thanks to Brendan and David for putting this on. This has been very informative.
Awesome, and thank you very much. Real quick, I'm going to, like I said, I am going to email the guide out to everybody. But right now, I'm just putting this up here. You've got our email addresses right there. You've got a reminder of the due date. If you go ahead and write down these email addresses, if you do not see one of our guides in your inbox by close of business tomorrow, email us and I'll make sure you get it. Again, thank you everybody for being here today. Thank you everybody for asking your questions. Real quick, I got one last question, which is kind of important that was sent to me. What GPA is used? Basically, when you get a copy of your transcripts, whatever the GPA is on those transcripts is the GPA we're going to use. So there's that question. Should you apply now? Go ahead and jump on the portal and check it out. You can go ahead and start doing things. Again, you have until Friday, 29 October to get your stuff in. So make sure that you have it in before then. All right. Thank you everybody for being here today. That's going to conclude our event. And any questions, get in touch with us. We're more than glad to help you out. We're more than glad to make sure you get the answers you need. And stay in touch and we'll keep you informed via email. And you can also check out, we'll have some stuff go out via Facebook and Twitter on the Senator's social media to keep you guys updated what's going on. Thank you everyone for being here. Thanks again to Rob and Ken for taking the time out of their day to talk about the process. And we'll see you when we see you.